Coconut's tropical. What do you mean? Well, this is a temperate zone.
I want to share with you a story. It's a story of a man trying to grow exotic palm trees in Yorkshire. So when you think about the most tropical, exotic looking palm tree, there's one type that springs to mind, and that is the coconut tree. Now, a lot of us have done it. We've gone to B&Q or to our supermarket and we've seen those big strappy leaves of the coconut plant with a coconut at the base in the pot, and we thought, yes, let's see if we can grow a coconut at home. We buy the plant, we get it home, and we quickly find it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to keep it alive for any long period of time. 6 months and you're doing really, really well. You can keep it alive over a year, fantastic. But any longer and it needs a lot of help, it needs lots of light, lots of heat, and we give up because we can't give it the conditions it really wants. It really is a waste of time buying a real coconut plant here in the UK or anywhere that isn't really subtropical or tropical. But we don't give up hope. We do our research and we find there's other palm trees, not tropical, but with some hardiness that should give that tropical coconut-like vibe. And we find Ciagris, and this is a tall growing palm with that really tropical looking palm tree look. Yes, it doesn't have the coconuts, but it has that beautiful foliage and that clear trunk after a while. And we try those palm trees and we find, just like with the coconut palm tree, we can keep it alive a bit longer, but it's so slow growing in the UK. We need long hot summers, plenty of water, and then it just gets to winter and they've got no chance. You can get it through with lots of protection, but it will lose a leaf or two, and over growing season it'll only grow half a leaf to a full leaf, and over 2 or 3 years it loses more leaves than it can grow and it dwindles and dies. So Ciagris is out of the question. Then we look at other palm trees and we look at Butias, and there's various different types. Probably easiest to grow, the hardiest one in the UK and Northern Europe is this. This is Butia odorata, often referred to in the trade as Butia cautata, but it's Butia odorata is a real species. And yes, it has these huge leaves that tower over me, arching over beautiful feather-like leaves, and we get a big solid trunk which is forming on my specimen here that's about 15 years old now from a very small plant. And yes, it looks beautiful, and when it flowers, if it sets seeds with a male and a female plant, we will get small mini coconuts. So we fill the brief in that sense, because we will get coconuts of a kind, not true coconuts, but mini coconuts. But it really doesn't have that proper tropical vibe that a true coconut plant has. So although it's hardy and it looks beautiful, it doesn't have the exact aesthetic we are looking for. What we want is a cross between a Ciagris palm and a Butia palm. And there is such a thing that you can buy, and that is a mule palm, which is a cross between a Ciagris and a Butia. So it is an infertile hybrid between the two different species. This behind me is not one of those mule palms, it's the closest I have in the garden. This is actually a Butia aerispatha, and this gives you, it's the closest I've got to a Ciagris Butia cross in my garden at the moment. And it's got these beautiful arching leaves, and they are more delicate than the odorata, but it's not the mule palm. I have had the mule palm, and if you're trying to grow a mule palm, you'll quickly find that it's not that hardy, and if you plant it out, it might get through a winter, but it struggles and get a cold winter and it will die. But that was because the Butia and the Ciagris used for that cross in the trade for the last 10-15 years were more of the tropical Ciagris and the more less hardy Butias in some cases. But then a few years ago, a hardier version of the mule palm, hopefully the holy grail of crosses between a queen palm or Ciagris palm, which has the hardiest provenance the most hardiest place that they grow, with pretty cold tolerance, and also a Butia aerispatha, which is a very hardy, as you can see, Butia palm, were crossed together to make the true hardiest Syagrus Butia crosses, the holy grail in coconut looking palms that hopefully you can grow in the UK. Many of us bought them, many of us have looked after them for several years now, and a few of us have planted them out. I'll show you what mine looks like right now. And this is it, the hardiest palm you can get crossing the Syagrus with the Butia. This is Butia aerispatha crossed with Syagrus romanzophiana Santa Catarina. And look at it, it's completely dead. And in my garden, this survived a winter outside, it survived several inside, then a winter outside. The following winter it defoliated and it spear pulled. I've given it another year and a half just in case it came back, but it hasn't. It's completely dead. And I'm not the only one who have grown this palm and seen it die. I know other gardeners in the north of England have seen it die as well, even though it should be the hardiest. And bear in mind, in my garden I have Briar and Marta growing completely fine. I have the Canary Island date palm, Phoenix canaensis, growing fine. I have also got the Trachycarpus martianus, also, although it's damaged, is growing fine. But this here should be the holy grail of coconut-esque palm trees in the long run, and it's unfortunately not made it in my garden. That's not to say it can't grow well in the UK. Down south or more sheltered places, perhaps it should grow well. But here, on this very windy day, I'm in a sheltered spot, it gets full sun, it had no competition of plants around it, and it did not survive. So unfortunately, it looks like my chances of growing a coconut-like palm tree in the UK are pretty much done and dusted. So as I dig up another palm tree that's not made it in my garden, I'm reminded of all the other palm trees that also haven't made it. The Syagrus, the mule palms, even a Chimerops and also Trachycarpus have also not made it in my garden, although those are hardy palms. Those were in winter 2010, and that's a completely different story, because that was an extremely bad winter, and those particular plants that didn't make it were in pots and they froze completely through, so I know there's a reason behind that. Whereas these, unfortunately, giving it great soil, great drainage, good location, it's just not hard enough in my location. There we are, another palm tree for the compost heap. But obviously with every plant that dies, it opens up another area for planting, trying something else. But I know in the future I won't be growing mule palms in my garden. Now, a lot of you probably thinking, but what about the mountain coconut? That is Parajubaea. Well, Parajubaeas have been tried by many people as well. There's 3 species that are well known, and they're Torrellii, Microcarpa and Parajubaea sunca. And out of these, Torrellii has been the most common, easiest to be available in the trade, and plenty have been bought over the years. Not many, unfortunately, are surviving now because they are not that hardy for the UK, especially in the north where I live. But I do have a Parajubaea. I have Parajubaea sunca. In fact, I've had it for 15 years. I've grown it from a strap-leaf seedling. I've potted it on, I've mollycoddled it, kept it in the greenhouse over winter, brought it out for summer, and now it's a nice sized palm tree. And this could be the answer. This could be the coconut-like palm with coconuts-ish that I can have in my garden look fantastic and be the most tropical looking palm that I can have here in Yorkshire. Now here it is. This is my Parajubaea sunker that I've kept alive for 15 years now, and it's got gorgeous arching leaves and it's got a slender trunk, and this trunk will get big. If this is planted in the ground and survives, it'll get to be a huge, tall but relatively slender trunk compared to the height, with beautiful, graceful arching trees, and if it fruits we'll get those mini mountain coconuts. What a wonderful palm tree to grow in the UK, and a fantastic palm for my garden. But this is quite a rare plant, and I've seen lots of palm trees unfortunately die in my garden that have been on the edge after a number of years, and I don't want to risk this to die in my Yorkshire garden. Instead, I want to see this thrive. I want to be able to see this palm tree get bigger and better year after year, so we have a true mountain coconut doing well in the UK. Not that there aren't other specimens in the UK, but there's not many Parajubaea sunkers outside of London. And what I want to do to make this survive is actually not grow it in my garden. I want this to grow down south. I want this to be in Cornwall or Devon. So if you've got a garden in Devon, Cornwall, somewhere where you know this plant will survive, if you've got a public garden that you could have this planted in, let me know. I'm really interested in taking this on a road trip down to Cornwall, planting it ideally in a public garden where we can see it do really, really well. Not on the edge, I want it in a place where it'll absolutely thrive. So that is why I'm giving up trying to grow this palm tree in my Yorkshire garden, and it'll end up being hopefully a Cornish palm tree in the future. So Einstein has been famously quoted as saying the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And maybe it's us exotic gardeners, especially us in the north of the country, that are insane, because we do basically the same thing. We get an exotic looking plant that we've not grown before, we plant it in the garden, we try to keep it alive, and it dies, and we don't learn our lesson because we'll go and buy another exotic plant that's meant to be on the edge but looks amazing, and we'll plant that, look after it as best we can, and it eventually dies. And then we go back and we buy something else. So perhaps we are pretty much insane gardeners. But I like to think about it this way. If you've not killed a plant 3 times, then you don't know if it's hardy or not. Yes, it might die 1 or 2 times when you plant it, but it might be all sorts of reasons. It could be a wet winter, a cold winter. It could be a specimen that's not really good and a bit unhealthy when you bought it, or had a disease. So you try the plant, it dies. You try it again, maybe in a better location, it dies again. You try it for a 3rd time and it doesn't get through that winter, and you realise, yeah, perhaps I should give up on that particular plant and look for something hardier or better suited to your location. So we're not insane, we just like to test the boundaries on plants. But when it comes to palm trees, there's so many great specimens. Yes, I want to have a coconut looking palm tree in my garden, and I've grown many over the years. We've talked about the Sagres, I've had that, I've grown that, and it's died. I've had the mule palm, and I've grown that, it has died. I've had a hardier mule palm, and again, as we've seen, it's also died. So with my Parajubaea sunker, my beautiful mountain coconut palm tree that I've looked after for 15 years, I don't want to plant that in the garden and see that die. I want to see it thrive, and I know in my heart of hearts that it probably won't thrive in my garden. I've known other Parajubaeas, not sunker but Torrellii, grown in the north of England, and they have not got through the winters very well. They survived a few and then eventually perished, and I don't want to see my Parajubaea sunker go that way. So that's why hopefully I'm going to take my beautiful Parajubaea sunker down south into a nice, warm, mild location where it will thrive. I want it growing ideally in the public view, so I can go back after years and see it do better and better. So what have we learned from this video? Well, you can't grow coconut trees in the UK indoors or outdoors long term, and you can't grow the very tender coconut-like palm trees outdoors in the UK. Yes, you can try things, you can push limits, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to grow a very tender palm tree in the UK outside, it's not going to survive long term. But that doesn't mean you should give up growing palm trees or exotic looking palm trees. I've grown plenty, got the Butias, got the Parajubaeas, I've even got the Phoenix canariensis doing well in my garden, got the Trachycarpus, and there's various other ones you can grow as well. But the future for my mountain coconut, Parajubaea sunca, doesn't rest in my garden in Yorkshire. It lives down south in the future. It hopefully will end up in a garden in Cornwall or Devon. So watch this space, and hopefully later on in the year we'll see it planted somewhere new, somewhere where it will thrive for years to come. Thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK. Join me next week where we're doing more in the garden.